Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're taking a fascinating journey back in time. Imagine this. Over 2,000 years ago, right on the beautiful shores of the Mediterranean Sea, stood this magnificent ancient city. It was founded by, and literally named after, Alexander the Great. I'm talking about Alexandria. It was this bustling, vibrant metropolis, just absolutely packed with merchants, sailors, and travelers arriving from distant lands every single day. But out of all its architectural and cultural wonders, one specific place stood way above the rest: the legendary Library of Alexandria.
So, what really happened to the greatest library in history? I mean, if you ask most people, they'll probably picture this massive, catastrophic fire that wiped out all of ancient human history in one single, terrible night. But as we're going to explore today, that popular Hollywood myth of a single fiery climax, it just isn't the whole truth. It's actually a much deeper, far more complex, and honestly, a much more tragic story.
Section 1. The Ultimate Knowledge Center, building the ancient world's greatest think tank. Okay, let's dive right into this process. The rulers of ancient Egypt had this totally unprecedented dream. They wanted to collect literally every single piece of knowledge in the entire world. And their method for doing this in an era long before the internet? Well, frankly, it was pretty aggressive. Whenever ships arrived at Alexandria's busy harbor, authorities would immediately search them. Any manuscripts they found on board were strictly confiscated, meticulously copied by scribes, and then those copies were added to the official shelves. Through this relentless sort of ancient piracy, they successfully amassed hundreds of thousands of scrolls.
Section 2. Unlocking Ancient Secrets, a hub of brilliant minds.
Now, what's really interesting about all this is that the library quickly became much more than just a warehouse for dusty scrolls. It actually evolved into the undisputed intellectual capital of the ancient world. We're talking about students and scholars traveling thousands of miles just to collaborate here. It was this massive, interdisciplinary think tank. On one hand, you had astronomy, where they were literally charting the stars above, and right next to that, geography, where scholars were actually calculating the size of the Earth. Day and night, massive breakthroughs in mathematics and advanced medicine just buzzed within these walls, as all these brilliant minds worked together to try and unlock the universe.
And this knowledge wasn't just localized to one culture either. The library successfully preserved texts from Egypt, Greece, Persia, India, and so many other diverse civilizations. It represented something truly beautiful, really, humanity's collective wisdom. It was the ultimate hope that knowledge could actually unite people from incredibly different, distant backgrounds into one shared pursuit of understanding. It's like a giant puzzle coming together.
Section 3. The Julius Caesar Fire Myth, the Hollywood Climax.
But, as we know, no great treasure remains safe forever. As Alexandria grew in power, it inevitably found itself caught right in the middle of some really dangerous political struggles and shifting empires. Let's pinpoint the year 48 BCE. This is exactly when Julius Caesar became involved in a violent conflict right there in Alexandria. During the heavy fighting, these massive harbor fires broke out. And ancient accounts suggest that some of these raging flames actually spread to the buildings connected to the Great Library, causing some pretty significant damage.
So, the crucial point here is that the Hollywood myth absolutely loves the dramatic idea of instant destruction. A single blazing fire during Caesar's time, wiping it all out in a flash. But the historical reality, it's far more complex. The truth is, a significant portion of the library, along with its vast collection of scrolls, actually survived that fire in 48 BCE. What really happened was a much slower, gradual decay over centuries rather than some overnight apocalypse.
Section 4. A slow and tragic decline. Death by 1,000 cuts. Let's see how this builds over time, because the true tragedy of Alexandria wasn't a spectacular blaze at all. It was an agonizingly slow death. Starting with Caesar's initial harbor fire conflict in 48 BCE, centuries passed with shifting rulers and entirely shifting priorities. The funding and support, it just dried up. This led directly into an ongoing phase of repeated regional wars and upheaval, until finally it reached an era of ultimate neglect and ruin. Over time, scrolls were lost, buildings literally crumbled to the ground, and scholars simply packed up and left.
We really need to understand the profound intellectual cost here. The tragedy wasn't just the loss of physical parchment or books. It was the devastating loss of ideas, discoveries, and stories that future generations would simply never get the chance to read. Each conflict, each minor fire, and each period of neglect removed another priceless piece of humanity's heritage, bit by bit.
Section 5. Humanity's Lost Intellectual Heritage, the Echoes of Alexandria.
We really have to pause and reflect on what vanished from human history forever here, because inside those crumbling walls was the absolute cutting edge of ancient science. Just imagine for a second, inventions recorded centuries ahead of their time, futuristic ideas, brilliant concepts, and mechanical wonders were meticulously drafted on scrolls that simply disappeared forever, taking all their brilliant potential right along with them.
And consider the tangible wonders that were lost too. We're talking about maps of ancient worlds and highly detailed historical records that could have easily answered modern mysteries we still actively debate today. While some argued that a chunk of this knowledge survived through copies spread to other regions, many historians actually believe the destruction of the Library of Alexandria delayed global scientific progress by centuries, hundreds of years of advancement just gone.
The preservation of learning remains one of humanity's most important responsibilities. The story of Alexandria isn't just an ancient history lesson, it's a really stark warning. Civilizations rise and fall, but the library has become this timeless symbol, highlighting the absolute fragility of our own modern knowledge systems. It shows the severe dangers of allowing our collective wisdom to just slip away.
So what does this all mean? What lost discoveries from those ancient scrolls might have changed the course of history forever? If those scrolls had survived, what would our world look like today? Would we be centuries ahead in medicine, technology, maybe even space travel? The mystery of the Library of Alexandria remains one of the greatest, most fascinating unanswered questions in human history. If you enjoy this explainer's journey into the past, please subscribe to the channel and join us for our next adventure into history.